So again, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Zabbixers. Today we are going to talk about what's new in Zabbix 6.4. But before we will get into all the juicy details we have prepared for you today, please let me welcome for the introduction Alexey Vladishev, the founder and CEO of Zabbix, to introduce us to this webinar.
Well, Alexander, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Well, I see there are people from many different countries. Well, I saw some from Germany, from countries from Latin America, Peru, Brazil, the United States, Austria, and well, so many of you are here. Yeah, so this is the first webinar when we talk about the new exciting features of Zabbix 6.4. I'm very much excited to be here today. And I think Zabbix 6.4 is a great release. We really managed to fit some very important functionality, and I will just highlight just a few enhancements which I feel really important in Zabbix 6.4. First of all, this is a just-in-time user provisioning, which really helps. And this is, by the way, the most top voted functionality. We all really wanted to have this into Zabbix, and so finally it's here. It's all about having users and management of users outside of Zabbix, somewhere in LDAP or Active Directory. Well, just keep user information not in Zabbix but somewhere else. So this is really important for security and for compliance. We also have introduced support of the COs and symptom events, just to separate what is important, what problems and what events are important and what is less important. So a less important thing shouldn't distract us from real issues, from real problems which are found by and discovered by Zabbix. We have also introduced zero downtime upgrade of proxies, which is really cool, because obviously, especially for the bigger users, for larger deployments, when you say have thousands or hundreds or maybe tens of proxies deployed in different parts of the world, and sometimes it's really a little bit of challenge to upgrade from one major release to another, but not anymore, because we have sort of backward compatibility of proxies. We have also introduced the instant propagation of all configuration changes. So as soon as you make some changes in Zabbix, like you create a new metric for monitoring or create a new host, you do some updates in the configuration of Zabbix, so all those configuration changes gets distributed almost instantly across the whole Zabbix infrastructure, including proxies, including agents, regardless on in what mode they're working. We have introduced a real-time streaming of events and metrics to some third-party systems. Like, for example, if you want to push something to Kafka, well, you can do it right now, and it will work in real time. Template versioning, really important, especially if you have some automation in your CI/CD pipeline for delivering templates and management templates in your enterprise. And maybe last but not least, what I'd like to mention right now is about the framework for development of new widgets and new visualization tools and new models for Zabbix UI. So this is an excellent way. If you have developers, you have resources to extend Zabbix, you can do it without touching Zabbix code, and it's all made in a very documented way. Anyway, I don't really want to be kind of a spoiler for what Alexander will take just a few seconds. So, okay, now we'll have 1 hour to discuss all these and even more of features in a much more detail. So, well, Alexander, the stage is yours. And by the way, maybe after we finish talking about Zabbix 6.4, we'll have a Q&A session. So please prepare all your questions and ask them in a Q&A session in Zoom. Yeah, so there is a button like Q&A. Just write your question and we'll respond at the end of the webinar. So thank you. And without further ado, Alexander, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexei. And I will, with pleasure, take the stage from you to get again into the details of what is new in Zabbix 6.4. But before I will do exactly that, let me remind all of you, just as Alexei said, after the presentation, after the webinar, we are going to talk about all the questions that you have about Zabbix. So make sure to prepare all your questions as much as you can get, ready, and ask them preferably, of course, in the Q&A section. So we will definitely, again, not miss them. And we will, again, answer all of them. So without further ado, not to test your patience, let me start talking about what's new. So let's talk about the summary, what's new in 6.4. Of course, Alex already told most of it, but again, just to make sure you know what awaits you and what we are going to talk about. So Zabbix 6.4 establishes the groundwork for many potential feature improvements and new use cases by evolving multiple core aspects of Zabbix. Why evolving? Why improving? Because again, we are laying the foundation. Some of it was already existing in Zabbix for quite some time, but of course, as the time goes, all the features evolve, they improve, they become more dynamic, more granular, more precise, and this is exactly what is going on also with 6.4. So we are going to talk about the new improvements of user management and provisioning, or JIT, or just-in-time user provisioning. We are going to talk about more streamlined upgrade procedures. So what exactly does that mean? Why is it streamlined now? We are going to talk about instant propagation of configuration changes, which was already stepping on our toes in 6.2, and it is now available in 6.4. Performance improvements, of course, a lot of them, especially for larger environments. Integrations, now you can do them a lot easier, and also with proper guidance, of course, from us, from the Zabbix team, so we can work closer with the community on, again, adding more new cool features to the Zabbix front end as well, and improve problem and alert management. So anyone, any user, super admin or not, can also easily work with Zabbix and instantly resolve whatever happens, whatever is detected by Zabbix. But let's get into the details as promised. So just-in-time user provisioning, or in other words, JIT user provisioning. So of course, any company uses, well, definitely more than at least one application, than one software product. And most of them nowadays, for security reasons, do require some authentication. And it can be quite a pain if we need to, of course, manage a lot of applications. So we need to create users there, we need to create users here, then all the users need to remember all the passwords for each single application. But with just-in-time user provisioning, we can make it simpler, and we can make it simpler, of course, for Zabbix too. So now in Zabbix 6.4, we can automatically provision users and manage users across multiple applications with Zabbix included in those multiple applications. An authentication mechanism will utilize LDAP or SAML, which can be used also for, for the main, for the single sign-on purposes, by allowing us to use enterprise-grade security and simplifying the control, the management of user groups and user permissions by not only propagating the users by provisioning the users in Zabbix from your main provisioning system, example LDAP itself, but also by propagating the changes which you do in LDAP to Zabbix directly, with essentially just doing, well, basically a click. And I'm not, again, being not precise here. It's just a click to update the provision. So in Zabbix 6.4, we have now a simple way to configure JIT provisioning. So as you can see over here, we can just mark the checkbox over here to configure the JIT user provisioning, and we will have the option to make the group configuration. So the groups that you have on LDAP will be supported, which again was and requested and awaited, and it is now here. And you can again specify which attributes will be used from your, again, main point of creating the users and provisioned into the Zabbix. And one of the best parts of it, there's a lot of best parts of it really, but one of those is that the user now does not require to be pre-created in Zabbix. So the user does not have to exist in Zabbix. With JIT provisioning, the user can be provisioned, or in other words, created, basically as soon as the user will try to log in into the Zabbix if the JIT provisioning is configured. And of course, the data, the parameters of that user will be based on what is configured, on the attributes this user have in LDAP or SAML. And users will be mapped to the user groups and user roles, again, based on the LDAP group pattern. So you can select yourself what will be the pattern and how it will reflect on in which user group the user will be, meaning the permissions will be applied based on that to the host groups. And the user role, meaning that not only you will manage by using the same LDAP, the permissions to what user can configure, what user can see, what kind of data for the host, but also how will be the access to the entire front end configured. Will something will be disabled or everything will be in place. And not only that, so previously, sometimes we needed to configure media types for users to make sure all of the users will be notified, again, via their preferred way. And sometimes that meant that we needed to add quite a bunch of those. So now with just-in-time user provisioning, you can also, again, use attributes from LDAP or SAML to map a specific media type for the user. So you will not need to do it manually. Again, it will be automatically provisioned. And just-in-time user provisioning also can take the advantage of SCIM, or System for Cross-Domain Identity Management, which is an open standard used to automate user provisioning or deprovisioning across multiple applications. There are, again, different schemas or algorithms that are used to specifically provision those users, but Zabbix can now be a part of that provisioning. So users can be provisioned to the Zabbix as well. But keep in mind, user provisioning without enabled and configured scheme is made only for the login action, so that the user, can actually log in. But the user's provision by scheme will also be created in Zabbix as well, again, based on the attributes they will have. And if you're thinking, okay, users are provisioned automatically, that's absolutely great, but how will I know? Have I created the user, or was it provisioned? Well, of course, they will be marked. So all the provisioned users, again, which are automatically provisioned, will be marked in the user list by a date entry. So you will see when exactly the user was provisioned. And to make sure all the changes that you apply in, again, LDAP and Active Directory will also be reflected in Zabbix, you now have the Provision Now button, by clicking on which the user information will be updated. And I bet you will take advantage of just-in-time user provisioning. And one of the main purposes of having all the users controlled with one control plane is that we can not only provision, but also deprovision users. And to make sure, again, as soon as you deprovision user in your LDAP, it will be deprovision in Zabbix, you will need to specify the group in which the deprovisioned users must be. So the user access for those users will be disabled. And the scheme provisioning also requires a Zabbix API token with superadmin permissions. So of course, that means you can either generate a token for your own profile and then use it for scheme, or of course, you can create a separate user dedicated to scheme and generate, again, an API token for it and specify how often it needs to be regenerated to keep things secure. Another big change is visual, the new menu structure. So now the menu looks a bit different. You may think, okay, this doesn't look like something that I already used to, and that's partially true. But if you will take a closer look, you will see that it still pretty much similar to what we had previously. It's just now it is use case based. So now everything is divided by the logic for what it is used. And you already can see on the screenshot right here some new menus like data collection. And data collection is now, of course, related to the configuration of data collection. So configuration of hosts, configuration of items, configuration of triggers, and so on. And then we have the alerts. And previously, you might remember that in example, some of the actions were in a separate configuration action menu, and some of them were in the services menu. So no more. All alerts, all actions, everything, all media types are now in the alerts section. And another quite visible change are the dashboards. So the dashboards now is a separate top menu, which I think is a pretty important change, since we always visited the dashboard, because dashboards were our central view, our source of the most important summaries. And now we can just get to those summaries with a single click and immediately see what is going on in the most important parts of our infrastructure. And in case, again, you're worrying that, well, it will take time to get used to, I'm absolutely sure it will be a fast time and you will immediately notice the advantages of the new structure to make sure everything is now easier and faster to find. Another big change, which is instant propagation of configuration changes. So we all know that when we make some changes to the configuration, maybe we add some hosts, maybe we link some templates to the hosts. Maybe, again, there was a discovery rule, a big one that was executed. Before everything will start collecting data and detecting problems, we needed to wait a moment for the configuration to sync. And when it was a new fresh installation, we still needed to wait, but it was fast. But of course, as we grow, as there are more objects, hosts, websites, everything that we start to monitor, the configuration also grows bigger. And the bigger we grow, the sometimes longer the configuration update took. So we, of course, had this question of how can we make it faster, how we can make the Zabbix configuration cache reload faster, how can we make the sync of configuration between the Zabbix components like Zabbix server and Zabbix proxies faster, or Zabbix server and proxies and Zabbix agents, especially active agents. And we started slow but efficiently. So in 6.2, you definitely remember there was a new button introduced in the proxy administration, which was refresh configuration of proxies. So no more runtime commands. You could just go to the administration proxies, make a click, configuration was updated. And one of the most, again, important parts of it was that not only for the active proxies, but for the passive proxies as well. So this definitely helped. This helped a lot. This improved things a lot. But we did understand that more needed to be done and want to make, again, the configuration updates faster. And we did exactly that in 6.4. So a new way of syncing the configuration was introduced, which is based on the parameter proxy config frequency. It's a new parameter. You can find it in the Zabbix server configuration file when we're talking about passive proxies in this case, and in Zabbix proxy configuration files if we're talking about the active proxies. And this parameter, as you can guess, is responsible for configuring how often the configuration will be synced between Zabbix server and Zabbix proxies. You might think, okay, but there was config frequency parameter. Yep, was. In 6.4, it is deprecated. Now we have proxy config frequency, and this proxy config frequency default value is 10 seconds. Can you imagine? Now Zabbix can sync the configuration in just 10 seconds between Zabbix server and a proxy, when previously it was 1 hour. And well, 1 hour is a lot of time. You can do a lot of things in 1 hour, but now again, it's just 10 seconds, meaning that you will probably, by default, will not be even quick enough to click the refresh configuration button. But of course, it is still configurable. That's why you have the configuration parameter. Okay, 10 seconds. Then it probably raises a question. I have large proxies. They are collecting thousands of new values per second. They are so large that SQLite, an example, performance is not enough. We use MySQL or PostgreSQL for the proxies. Will Zabbix handle it? Can Zabbix handle those 10 seconds intervals with such big proxies? And the answer is, of course, yes, because in Zabbix 6.2, we introduced the incremental configuration updates. So instead of reloading the whole configuration dataset, only changes will be picked up by the Zabbix server, which of course speeds up things in quite heavily. And the same logic is now applied for proxies in Zabbix 6.4. Which again allows us to use those enormously rapid proxy config frequency values. And at the same time, if you're worrying, okay, but what if, well, I decided that I don't need to update the configuration that often, and I'm kind of used to runtime commands. Does that mean that config cache reload runtime command will still do the full reload? No, of course not. Those changes affected too. So only, again, the deltas will be updated when you execute the runtime command. And the full configuration sync will be executed in cases the Zabbix proxy was just started. So it's a new proxy, which is obvious. It needs to get the full configuration, or a restart. And again, as you might know, the configuration is kept in the caches. So on restart, the caches are freed. And of course, on the restart, they will also be populated as soon as the proxy starts back. And on Zabbix server HA failover for the same exact reasons. And not only proxies are affected, the active agents as well. So now, active agents, instead of receiving the full configuration copy every 2 minutes, as it was before, in Zabbix 6.4, active agents will receive the configuration copy only when actual changes have been performed. So if you use your, let's say, default official Linux template or Windows template to monitor the machines accordingly, and you do not really update it, you're content with what is in it, you just use them as active checks, basically, it will not update at all, just once. So thanks to, again, to the fact that agents now will compare do they need to update the configuration or not using the config revision logic. The refresh active checks parameter can be lowered to 1 second. And you might remember that old range was starting from 60 seconds. And the best part, of course, that this behavior is supported both by Zabbix agent and Zabbix agent 2. So by both Zabbix agents. And great news do not end today. So the next is improved SNMP bulk data collection. So if you have some, let's say, enterprise-sized network devices, and by enterprise-sized, I mean not just even, let's say, a switch with 50 ports or a switch with 100 ports, but again, rather closer to the thousands than to hundreds. You might have seen sometimes that the data from those big, enormous enterprise tier network devices was occasionally delayed when we monitored it using SNMP, because the SNMP is, well, the way they support the monitoring. And due to that, we saw your concerns about that, and we understood that we need to improve the SNMP data collection. We need to make sure that even large devices with a lot of, again, metrics that can be monitored on them will be monitored fast enough so we can get all the values in time. And due to that, we applied some changes. First one that was that the legacy style bulk requests, and you might remember when you created the interface, you had here in SNMP interface settings, use bulk requests. Now they are renamed to the combined requests. And combined requests essentially still get the data in bulk, but the main difference is they don't utilize get next request, unlike the new item that was introduced. So to make sure, again, there is no confusion when you are using the new configuration, a new collection method and renaming was introduced. And the new method is SNMP get bulk requests, which is, again, the most efficient way to monitor large enterprise network devices. Since SNMP get bulk requests can provide better performance, faster metric collection, and faster discovery execution of all the entities, of all the OIDs that you need to get from a SNMP device. So now you can basically discover tens of thousands of metrics in one go without worrying of delayed data, or that, an example, you will impact the performance of the devices, because with previous bulk request approach, again, it wasn't bulk, but it was sending requests in bulk, and some devices, again, were not very happy about getting a lot of requests at the same time, even though they contain a lot of metrics. So again, now with the get bulk, that should be solved, and this should happen a lot faster and more efficient. So what is this new item? And this new item is the walk item, which polls the SNMP indexes by using get bulk request, which again tries to get as much data as possible by executing get next request, and then returns the data in plain text. So you already can see an example here. So we do a walk, we specify an OID, and then we, again, basically walk through everything that is available to all the additional OIDs and branches on that OID. And you get an output like this, which we can use as the master item. So this item will get us everything it can, everything we need, and then we will process it inside the Zabbix using the dependent items to make sure the device, again, will be not too busy with our request, but doing our job, while Zabbix will a lot more efficiently process the data collected by the master item. And if you're thinking, okay, that's a different approach, you are right, but it's not so different as you might think. And we see this by example here. So if you ever used the SNMP discovery, and I bet all of us did, you remember that when you specified the SNMP discovery, you also specified multiple OIDs and low-level discovery macros. And we can see that the syntax here is very much similar. You can still specify multiple OIDs, and you will again get the bulk results, get bulk next results from multiple OID branches. You will get it in plain text, and you will get it essentially with basically, you could say, one call, which will enormously speed up the process of SNMP collection up to 20 times faster than the usual SNMP poll. But that, of course, raises another question. Plain text, what will I do with plain text? And again, as I already mentioned, then we can use pre-processing to process that text, to pre-process that text. And to make sure it will be as easy as it possibly can be, we introduced new pre-processing steps specifically for that purpose. So now we can use a pre-processing step called SNMP walk to JSON, which we can define on the low-level discovery rule, which will get us all the walk request results. And again, we can specify which OID prefix should be replaced essentially with which LLD macro. And on this point, it should be already very, very familiar for you. If not, then definitely here. So here you can see again the LLD type of JSON, which is very, very similar to the JSON we had for, again, usual SNMP discoveries. You could say the old approach to SNMP discoveries. But with this one, again, we will get everything with walk, and we will then just transform it into LLD-based JSON with pre-processed. So again, it will be fast. And since both Zabbix server and proxies can do the pre-processing, it also will be efficient. So what's next? Okay, now you have, and now you have the JSON. Now you have the LLD macros. And the next step would be, of course, to create dependent item prototypes. And we can do that since we already have JSON. We converted SNMP bulk item results to, again, JSON. So we can use the next new pre-processing step for SNMP, which is the SNMP bulk value. And in it, you can again specify which OIDs to find in the master item, because the master item still collects the raw data. Master item still collects the result of the entire walk. And you use the SNMP index you assigned on the LLD level. So SNMP index will be replaced by, again, each discovered SNMP index, and you will see dependent items extracting the data. So essentially, if to simplify it completely, you will basically be doing, again, get bulk request to get all of the data, and then you will put it on the shelves by extracting each part of the data you need in Zabbix. So the SNMP device, again, will be very happy with those kinds of requests and will return the answers as fast as possible without having its performance affected. In addition to that, SNMP walk value preprocessing step can be used to transform values to UTF-8 or MAC from hex string. And you can also, as with many other preprocessing steps, use custom on fail option with those to make sure in case something unusual will happen, you will see, again, either a different kind of data or, again, a proper error, an error you think will be describing the situation much clearer when this happens. Zabbix official templates will also be reworked to use the new SNMP bulk collection approach. So they are already being reworked down there in the background. And of course, as soon as they will be introduced and released, we will notify everyone. And in addition to that, since it's get bulk requests, max repetition count can also be configured for those bulk requests to make sure, again, you will get as much data as should be in a single bulk request. And if you want to get all the details about how exactly can we configure it, how we can work with master dependent items with the new approach, rest assured, we are already working on presenting new training materials and presentations on how exactly can you work with the new approach. Streaming metrics and events over HTTP. So there are a lot of approaches on how we use Zabbix and how we use the data collected by Zabbix. And as you know, all this data that was collected by Zabbix could have been exported to separate files, which was done in real time. So it was real-time export of item values, trigger events, and transfer to files. And while this was absolutely great, and I saw myself, again, some quite unique integrations for, using this approach for NOC teams, this was not sufficient, mostly because, of course, it required a bit of extra steps to make sure the data from the files will get into this separate system. And now in 6.4, Zabbix users can stream item values and events directly to an external endpoint via HTTP. There are, again, a lot of cases when we need to stream the data. Maybe we have, again, an additional analytical tool, maybe specifically for events. Maybe we have a NOC team, and NOC team uses its own in-house system together with Zabbix. So they want to basically duplicate the data. And they want to do it, again, in a simple way. Or, again, maybe you want to stream metrics to message brokers like Kafka, like RabbitMQ, or Amazon Kinesis to adapt our system behavior to the collected data in real time. Maybe, again, we are working with a lot of data, the so-called big data, and we want to stream the key metrics and events from all the applications that are monitored by Zabbix, all the microservices that are monitored by Zabbix, to a data lake or a data warehouse for long-term storage and later on usage. Or just to, again, gain additional insights from our metrics and events by streaming them to an external IE engine. So how does that work? Now, a new connector section has been introduced under Administration General. And here, Zabbix administrators can define an external system where item values and events should be pushed. And in this case, Zabbix server will act as a client and will push all the data to the remote endpoint, which you will specify. Streaming will be done over HTTP via REST API. So if you ever used any APIs, you will definitely easily find a way around those. And those of you who already used real-time export, you can see the syntax is really familiar. So if you will decide to migrate to, again, a streaming approach rather to the file approach, you will not need to rework that much. Again, the syntax is basically the same. And a new configuration parameter responsible for connector workers was introduced, which is start connectors, basically for each system to which you will make the connections. So how to define a connector? Well, multiple connectors can be specified in the connectors section. So there we can, again, specify what type of data do we want to stream. Again, we can specify multiple connectors, so we can stream multiple types of data. And what is also very good about this approach is that with previous approach, you didn't really have any filters. So you kind of needed to export everything and then import somewhere everything. With this, you can use the tag filter and you can specify which, again, values, which item values do you want to import to somewhere and which events, which again makes it easier if you specifically use it to maybe, an example, only import events for a NOC team, and you want to import only the events that interest them, not, again, everything that Zabbix has detected and collected. which not only will make them happy, it will also, of course, send less data, which will make the data exchange faster if needed. And each connector can be further customized. So maximum number of events or item values that can be sent over one HTTP connection. And number of processes to run for this connector, we can also specify it from 1 to 100. How many attempts to make in case a connection failed. Timeout, which can be from 1 to 60 seconds. And if needed, the bearer token also can be specified. So all of this is, again, configurable. And since, again, here we are talking about basically streaming the data, and depending on what we monitor, depending on what we detect, the data can be pretty sensitive. And of course, we don't want to, then in this case, just stream this data and hope that nobody will ever intercept it. To make sure, even if somebody intercepts it or tries, you can, again, add advanced configuration options and use HTTP proxy settings to, again, stream the data through HTTP proxy. You can also add an additional authentication using the basic, the NTLM, Kerberos, and Digest HTTP authentications, and add SSL certificate settings. And that's still not all. You can also make it even more secure by using vaults. As you know, Zabbix 6.4 supports the HashiCorp and CyberArk vaults, in which you can, again, store all the sensitive details, including the sensitive connector information, the URL itself, the username, the password, and the bearer token, to make sure, again, nobody will be able to intercept them, and SSL certificate, key file, and password data, to make sure whatever data you are streaming, it will be streamed securely. Cause and symptom events. And we're not talking here about illnesses, we're talking about the problems specifically. So we have in Zabbix, of course, event correlation, which, again, kind of automates the location, the detection of root causes and the symptoms of it, but not always it is that simple. Sometimes, again, something unexpected may happen, something that we didn't know is even related. But when we saw this happen, we understood, well, okay, those events are actually connected. This event caused those symptoms. And we want to, make it somehow easier for everyone to see, so everyone can, again, understand that this situation is caused by this situation. So in 6.4, now we can specify which events are causes that caused the symptoms. So those, again, can be defined. And this allows Zabbix users to filter events in a way when, again, they either can see only root cause problems to make it easier and more precise to find a problem solving, instead of being overwhelmed by, again, everything everywhere all at once. So now you can simply, again, mark what has caused what is the root cause, what are the symptoms. And to do that, again, you just basically, again, need to select one event, mark a couple of other, which will be the symptoms, and then specify that you want to mark selected as symptoms, and the change is applied. So now you will see what was the cause and what symptoms it caused. But of course, by default, you will have basically the same view as you have right now, if you will not need to, again, make any linkage between the problems. And all problems will be considered as causes, as root issues. And in case a mistake will happen, and not exactly correct problems will be marked, then symptom events can be converted to cause events by pressing the update button in the problem list. And you might think, what update button? You know that button. This button was named previously ACK or acknowledge. But over the time, we can see that acknowledge button now can do a lot more than just acknowledge. I mean, we can change severity, suppress problems manually, unsuppress them, acknowledge, of course, too. And that's why we decided that it would be more appropriate to rename it to update, since you can update a lot about the problem, including, again, converting it to cause. And causes and symptoms also, if needed, can be processed differently by the actions themselves. So now it is possible to pause operations for symptom problems, which is, if comparing something, can be similar to event suppression. It's not exactly the same, but the logic by that is different. So if it's a symptom and you don't want to get notified about the symptom, you want to know what is the root cause, then you just leave the pause operations for symptom problems, and you will not get notified about them. You will get notified about the root cause. So you can react specifically to that and fix the main issue first. And since, again, not always everyone is on the same shift resolving the same problems, but still they want to be, again, informed about what's going on, and what is caused by what happened, why happened, and so on. Multiple new macros were introduced to make sure that notifications about the problems, about the triggers firing will be more detailed and include information about what was the cause of the event. What tags the cause event had, what severity, what status, what value. So you can, again, get as much as possible dynamic information about the root cause of the issue. And this information also can be used in manual event action scripts. And this also affected the API. So now multiple event-related API calls also support filtering by cause and symptom events. If you want to, again, get only the causes or only the symptoms, other way around. Then event get and problem get API methods were updated, and now they have new symptom parameter, which is, if true, then it's a symptom, or false, then it's a cause. And cause event ID for the symptom events also can be returned, as we see it right here. Another quite important change is the template versioning. So over the time, there was a lot of templates, and still, again, there is a lot of templates. Some of them are official, some of them are community ones. And sometimes it's hard to tell when we updated the template last. You know, not always everyone keeps a track of that, but we still very much want to know, is that the newest version of the template? Am I monitoring everything that is possible as precise as it can be done? And to make sure it is clearly visible, new field in the template list was introduced, the vendor and the version. So, of course, when you upgrade, those will not be automatically populated. But if you will import templates in which the fields vendor and version are populated, you will see that immediately. And Zabbix official templates, the newer versions of them will, of course, have that. But talking about your own templates, the community templates, to make sure, again, it will be easier for everyone, for the community to track which version they use and know who actually created it, you will need to, of course, update manually the export file of your template to make sure it will be visible. And in addition to that, of course, it's worth mentioning that nested template is also will be supported. Another new one is the support of data collection for outdated proxies. And in my opinion, that's a really, really, really great improvement when we're talking about the upgrade workflow. So previously, of course, when we planned the upgrade, we needed to keep in mind that we might need a bit of a downtime when we update between the major versions, because as you know, the major components of Zabbix are compatible only inside the same major version. And this means we need to plan, okay, if I will upgrade my Zabbix server to 6.4, then I will need to probably upgrade all my proxies to 6.4, but not in this case. So now the proxies, the data exchange between the Zabbix server and a proxy is backwards compatible. So how exactly backwards compatible is it? So now again, you can collect the data. The proxy will still support the data collection as long as it is not older as the previous major LTS release. So, and they will be, of course, marked. You will also see that in the front end. So proxies will be fully supported if they have the same major version as the Zabbix server, which is the usual approach. Proxy will be marked as outdated if its major version is older than the Zabbix server, but not older than the previous LTS release. So you will get the data from those proxies, meaning that you can again plan now an upgrade a bit differently. Now you know that you can upgrade the Zabbix server and then calmly upgrade each outdated proxy one by one without any rush while still receiving the data from them. And because outdated proxies again still support the data collection and remote command execution. But again, if a proxy is older than the previous LTS release, it will become not supported. And again, there's no official support that the data will come in. Maybe it will be, but again, do not rely on that. It's better to rely on the official support, of course, of the behavior. And we see here some examples of that to make things a bit more clear. So if we have Zabbix server version 6.4 and the current proxy version is 6.4, they are fully compatible. Outdated proxy will be considered the proxy with the version 6.2 or 6.0. So again, as you can see, not older than the previous LTS release. And that means 6.4 will still be able to get the data from 6.0 and 6.2. But unsupported proxy version basically is either older than 6.0 or newer than 6.4 because they are not forward compatible. This is partial backwards compatibility. If we have the Zabbix server version 7.0 and the current proxy version is 7.0, again, fully compatible, everything's okay. Outdated proxies will be considered 6.0, 6.2, and 6.4. So meaning, again, you will be able to receive data from them. They will be able to execute remote commands, but configuration exchange, configuration update will not happen. Unsupported is older than 6.0 or newer than 7.0. And again, and this is really important. If we have the server version 7.2, the current proxy version is 7.2. This is again full support. Outdated proxy version now, again, between which the data collection is possible, is 7.0. But if it's again older than the last major LTS release, then no data will be there. But again, you won't need to keep all of that in your head, in your memory specifically. Zabbix will inform you about that directly in the front end. So you will be able to go to administration proxies and see what is going on down there. So if you see, again, a yellow info box, then that means, again, this is an outdated proxy. If you see a red one, then it means it's a not supported one. And if with outdated, we can wait a bit before the upgrade. With red one, we must do the upgrade as soon as possible if we want to get the data. In addition to that, we simplified the creation of the dashboard widgets. So what does that mean? Well, during the Zabbix summit and other events, we saw how enthusiastically the Zabbix community members created their own custom front-end modules to, again, bring something of their own into the Zabbix, something that they like to use, they prefer to use inside the Zabbix, and also they wanted to share, again, with the community. And all of those creations were absolutely fantastic. And we wanted, again, to endorse that. We wanted to make sure anyone can do that, anyone who has basically the wish. And to achieve this, in Zabbix 6.4, we have implemented the following. So official widgets are now simpler to understand and can be used as examples to create an example, your own widgets on the dashboard. Widget metadata should be available as a single data pack. And adding those new widgets should be as simple as adding new files. So essentially, we just upload the pack, the folder with the widget, and that's it. Widget is there. Ideally, of course, widgets should be modular, and it should be easy to see them, to list them, and understand them, how to work with them using the Zabbix frontend. Plus, to provide, we decided that it's really important to provide, again, clear, detailed information to our community on how to create the custom widgets. So widgets were converted to the front-end modules, and here on the screenshot you can see that all the official Zabbix widgets have been converted to modules and now are available in the modules section. You can see a lot of familiar names over there in terms of widget names, and you can see that author is the Zabbix itself. And to simplify, again, creation of your own widgets, now you can check out the official widgets, which are placed in UI widgets directory, where you can find them. Custom widgets should reside in UI modules and then directory with the name of the widget. So it's not the widget file, but the widget directory rather. And to support, again, widgets, the modules can also load custom JavaScript, CSS, and images to make sure, again, they will look and act as you expect them to look and act. And as soon as the widget is uploaded or placed, you can click the scan directory button in the module section, and there it is, the widget is detected. Plus, of course, information about the widget also will be available in the front end, so you will be able to click on it and see the details which are available about this widget. But again, still this kind of implies that you need to know how to create them. And to make sure, again, you will be able to know how to get them, to make sure, again, the information about that is out there for you. A new developer-centered documentation section has been published, and it will be updated. Again, so you can have examples on how to create front-end modules, Go plugins, dashboard widgets. And this documentation will include not only examples, but also guidelines, code snippets, and step-by-step tutorials. So again, you can start with something basic, step by step, until you will create something that you always wanted to create. And some other changes and improvements, which are a bit shorter to talk about, but still very, very noticeable. So one of those is dynamic item value thresholds. So you definitely know the item value widget, a beautiful widget in which we could have placed the most important metrics, highlight them, change a bit their design to make sure they're visible, and again, see them in a comfortable form. But unlike the top hosts widget, in which you could define thresholds, this one initially was designed just to show value. But yes, it's definitely a good idea to add some thresholds to this widget. So then when somebody will access it, they will again instantly visually understand that, okay, green background, this definitely means good. Red one, probably this means something not very good happening. So now you can again add thresholds so that item value widget will change its looks according to the situation, which is reported by the value. Custom links. Ability to provide custom URL for hosts and events to quickly manage the problem in an external system. So now again, based on which event is happening, a URL can be provided again by clicking on which the user who noticed the problem or decided to solve the problem will be moved to again a dedicated place. And of course, you can also specify for which events it will be visible, this URL specifically, and for which not. In addition to that, again, you can name them. So now you can add URL labels. So again, when somebody will see that there's a link available for the trigger, they will not need to guess twice, like, what exactly does this link is? Where will it lead me to? So I don't know, should I click on? And by the name, again, they will see. So maybe they can open an incident in the internal ticketing system, or again, maybe it will lead them to the page in the Confluence, which describes how to resolve the problem. So they will immediately know what to do rather than just, wait and think like, how can I resolve this? They will have the guidance, the problem will be solved faster, and they will know that they have this guidance right in front of them. So previously, some of the checks required an interface, even though they didn't exactly had to use it. You could define again the address to which, an example, make a ping or connect via SSH right in the item key itself. So now those item types do not require an interface anymore. So no dummy interfaces. Again, you can add those items on the host without any interfaces, fast, easy, without any confusion. Why do I need an interface? But of course, do not forget, since you don't have the host interface in this case by default, make sure to specify the IP or DNS for simple checks, external checks, SSH agents, and telnet agents. Improved media type configuration. So in 6.4, now you have the ability to select an email provider, which is again a great change, and you can select from, well, ones of the most popular email providers like Gmail and Office 365. And the previous way was renamed to generic SMTP, which again, you can configure if you use your own internal email server to make sure, again, it will be used. But for others, you will basically get a pre-made way to use those. Preprocessing was also improved. So the new preprocessing design enables preprocessing parallelism by moving to thread-based preprocessing workers, which allows Zabbix to collect and preprocess hundreds of thousands of metrics without causing any queues and bottlenecks, which was, again, achieved by improving the preprocessing of JSON and XML data structures, which are used to populate dependent items. And as you can guess, those usually contain a lot of data. And this resolves the situations with data collection delay due to preprocessing bottlenecks, which again will definitely be noticed, and it was already even noticed, of course, by us ourselves on example of the templates of Elasticsearch and ClickHouse. And since both, again, Zabbix server and Zabbix proxy can do the preprocessing, this affects performance and improved performance of both. Model windows were introduced for action and maintenance creation, as well as copy functionality, with the goal of improving the overall working process with Zabbix. So now you will definitely, do not forget what exactly were you doing. From what exactly are you copying from what, from where? Yeah, it will be a model window, so you will always have in the background this context where you were, what were you doing, and what are you doing right now, which again will definitely simplify and speed up a lot of things. Custom aggregate function labels. So the dashboard graphs, as again, provide a really great way to aggregate the data, aggregate it visually as well, to make sure it will be easy to read this data. But sometimes it was not enough, again, to have just the name of the widget. Sometimes some additional detail was missing. And now you can, again, add labels to the aggregated data sets to make sure, again, anyone who will even take a quick glance on those graphs will immediately understand what exactly is aggregated on them. New templates were introduced. So Zabbix 6.4 comes with multiple new templates and integrations. Those templates are Microsoft Azure, MySQL, and PostgreSQL Server monitoring, Microsoft Azure virtual machines, low-level discovery improvements in AWS by HTTP template, VM Backup Enterprise Manager and replication monitoring, Cisco Nexus 9000 series template, BMC Control-M, Cisco Meraki dashboard, OS processes by Zabbix agent, and improvements to file system discovery in official Zabbix operational system templates. And as well, Zabbix 6.4 introduces a webhook integration for the Line messaging app, allowing Zabbix events to be forwarded to the Line messenger. And again, a whole set of smaller yet very notable changes. So SQLite free Zabbix proxies can now automatically recreate its own SQLite database, so you don't need to remove a file anymore, which makes it, again, faster and more automated. Host status filter, is it enabled or disabled, added to under data collection hosts. Additional filtering options have been added to the action log. And action log now supports import to the CSV. I'm sorry, export. Multiple context menu improvements to host, item, and event context menus. Old password verification is now required when changing internal Zabbix user password to make sure, again, someone will not change your password without you knowing. Value cache performance improvements when working with metrics that get updated less frequently than once per day, and added comments to enable profiling of read-write logs, mutexes for additional debugging in case it will be required. And with that said, definitely thank you for your attention. And now we can proceed to the questions. I see we definitely have some. And let me see what exactly do we have here. Will the Zabbix provided template like Cisco iOS be updated to the new approach with the walk instead of using Discover? Again, as far as I know, all templates will be gradually updated, but unfortunately there are, let's say, no specific terms I could have named. Will you send the slides as an email to us? Well, most likely. Later on, the recording will be published, so you will be able to review it again. And slides, again, most likely also will be, but I will need to have to specify on that. I can also see some questions are being posted in the chat. We will get to those definitely, but again, if it's possible, please ask the questions in the Q&A. We will definitely not skip them this way. So new SNMP preprocessing is kind of replacement for filters where we before were filtering F-type or if-alias. No, it's not related to the filters. Filters were used just to specify what do you want to be discovered or not. And in this case, you more like assign LLD macros to the OIDs. So basically what you do is you specify like behind this LLD macro, it will be hiding this value. So you kind of assign them. Are there security hardening guidelines, best practices available for Azure? I'm not sure. Is it a correctly asked question? You mean Zabbix in Azure? Because, well, we are from Zabbix. We can give recommendations about Zabbix, but not about Azure specifically.
Yeah, Alexander, I think the question is about deploying Zabbix in Azure, most likely. Yeah, so, well, actually, I have to say that at least we have a one-click deployment of Zabbix in Azure Marketplace. Basically, Zabbix is there. So if you want to, well, take advantage of it, well, go for it. I think at this moment we have Zabbix 6.2 available there, but 6.4 is coming next week. But in general, talking about security, I have to say that we're having, I guess, special webinars about hardening security of Zabbix, and actually security is one of our key priorities. So there are lots of information already published about how to make Zabbix secure on many different levels. It's just look at the history of webinars.
Yeah, I would also like to mention there are trainings on security of Zabbix, one-day trainings included, so it will not take a lot of your time, but they definitely cover a lot of not only theoretical topics, but also practicals on how can you actually configure all the security options, hardening options available in Zabbix. So join them, definitely. Okay, let's see the next one. Causes and symptoms. Can symptoms be remembered if the combination of events happen again, or are they unique for every event?
Yeah, Alexander, maybe I can comment on this. Yeah, so basically in Zabbix 6.4, we have introduced the notion of cause and symptom events, and this is basically the first step which we made. And the next step is to introduce the next generation event correlation engine. And with the help of this a new event correlation engine, it will be possible to define rules and automation for basically for a classification of different events. So based on these rules, Zabbix can understand that, for example, okay, those events are just a symptom of a kind of a higher level problem or something like that. So it is coming. At this moment, it's in a roadmap for Zabbix 7.0. And by the way, for those who are wondering what is coming in the next releases of Zabbix, we have a public roadmap. Yeah, on zabbix.com/roadmap, we have a roadmap which basically describes our vision about Zabbix 7.0, 7.2, and later releases. So most of the information is there. Yeah.
Okay, let's see what next is there. And I guess I will, for a moment there, stop sharing so people can actually better see our faces. There we go. So let's see what's next. Can the dependent trigger feature work in conjunction with both cause and symptom events? Not directly, but you definitely can use both. And again, as Alexa just said, event correlation will be improved in the future, which also can be checked by the roadmap.
Yeah, and I think event correlation will be kind of a superset of these functionalities. So eventually it will replace trigger dependencies.
Even better then. So you just need to wait a bit. Okay, that's an interesting. That's a simple question, but where are the proxies installed? At the client sides? Usually, yes, but that's not mandatory. You, of course, can install them even just to make the data collection at the same side. But again, you can always join our trainings and we will tell you each and single detail on those. Including there are also webinars on that topic.
Oh, it's a very long question. Maybe we can skip it.
Yeah, we'll have to. Sorry for that, but if you can make it shorter and resend it to us, then we will definitely get back to it. Okay, let's see. Does anyone know about compatibility Zabbix 6.4 with Grafana Zabbix data source? Is there any major API changes? For that, of course, you would need to check, I guess, with specifically also the plugin creator if they notice something that, let's say, groundbreaking. But from the overview, overall, it shouldn't be, especially if you just use it for the graphs.
Yeah, I think it should work. Yeah.
Will dynamic item value thresholds work with string values?
I don't think so. Actually, I saw this question. I actually went to the documentation just to see if it's documented or not. Yeah, and actually documentation states that, well, it works with, well, you have to specify numeric threshold. So most likely it doesn't work with the string data. But actually it would be interesting to know your use case. Why would you need a threshold for string data? Yeah, maybe we can just extend this functionality in further releases, to make it supported.
But yeah, for now, well, it's not exactly a workaround. That's exactly why it's used. But you could use value mapping or value mapping, and you would see it, and then you could specify. So, like if it's 1, it's red. If it's or if it's 0, it's red. If it's 1, it's green. So, and still see the text. Will the recorded version of the webinar be published afterwards? I did not manage to join at the start. It should be. Usually those are. I'm not sure when exactly, but most likely it will be. So you will see it at YouTube afterwards. Support of Sparkline charts was on the roadmap for 6.4. but I cannot find it in the release notes or still in the roadmap for the next versions.
Yeah, so Sparkline charts are not implemented yet, and actually, I think they've been postponed. It's not in the roadmap, it's kind of in our internal roadmap. Note that the public roadmap contains just a list of the most important things, but it's coming, absolutely, it's coming, and Sparkline will be supported at some point in the future.
Okay. Is it possible to convert the problem events from different hosts, host A and host B, as symptoms? Yes, of course. They are not host dependent in this case. They are just you yourself select what's a cause, what's a symptom. When there will be a native rsyslog solution?
Well, I think in the future we will work on it, log management solution. Maybe it will be implemented natively, or we will implement some sort of integration with existing solution. It's in our roadmap, most likely. I don't remember exactly, but I think it's planned for 7.2 or 7.4, something like this.
Yeah, but for now, an example, you can use the new feature of item value streaming. So you can stream the log values specifically to, again, other tool for specifically log analyzing and keeping.
Yeah, and if this question was about collecting rsyslog streams, I'm not sure what this question is about. Maybe it's about collection of the rsyslog. Then you could possibly, of course, use a log monitoring, but for native support of the syslog, you should probably wait a little bit.
When we will be getting parent-child relationship in Zabbix? Please.
Sorry, Alexander. Sorry for interrupting, but that's exactly why we are thinking about the event correlation engine, that it will really be designed to cover such use cases like this parent-child relationship, topology, relationship between a different the problems of different classes, problems with a different set of tags, and so on. So it is also coming very soon.
With the new features, how much minimum resources I will need in this version? All the resources, all the requirements of each Zabbix version are actually presented in the documentation. So you can always check what amount of CPU or memory you will need based on what you expect to monitor. So please check it. You will see it there, definitely.
Actually, the same number of resources required as for the previous release, like 6.0, 6.2, 6.4, exactly the same number of, memory, disk, and CPU.
Can you describe the improvements to system process data collection for Zabbix agent? There was not system process data. There was a new template for system processes, OS processes specifically. This was introduced. So not improvements, but our new template. No question. However, a fan since 1.0. Thanks for a great career. Thank you for using Zabbix. Definitely. Thank you very much. And for the kind words. Zabbix in Azure. Yes. Well, we kind of answered some of the questions, but Zabbix is available in the Azure. And in terms of scaling, we do actually provide some of the calculations and traffic, but it's definitely not something that would be easy to discuss as a part of a Q&A. But again, you can write to us your expectations from Zabbix, what do you plan, and then we can again discuss what approximately you will require in Azure specifically to scale it like absolutely perfectly. Well,
yeah,
okay,
resource consumption we already answered, I guess. Yeah,
same. Are there any changes in Zabbix HA, or is it the same as 6.2? As far as I remember, it's the same as it was in 6.0.
Yeah, exactly the same, yeah.
Okay, it's about the new algorithm SNMP Volk. SNMP devices with a lot of metrics can exceed the 64 kilobyte limit for the text field. How about increasing the DB limits? From my side, I can immediately say that data collection, so before the data is saved to the database, is not limited by anything. So you can collect 2 megabytes of text. And that's the key factor here, because pre-processing happens before the data goes into the database. So the idea is you collect as much as you need from SNMP, you extract what you need, and what you extract is in the database. So no DB increase limits actually needed for that.
Yeah, but still, if you want to keep this information like a raw data after SNMP Volk, it might be an issue. And I have to say, in Zabbix 7.0, we are increasing this size. Yeah, it's already in roadmap, and I think it's already in development. Yeah, so it will be increased very soon. So 7.0, there will be no such limitation anymore.
That's interesting news. Thank you. Is it possible to make an update from 6.7 to 6.4 with self-created templates which are created in 6.2? And is it possible to import the template? Yes, all yes. So yes, absolutely possible. And templates will be there. You will not lose your templates. Do not worry. We never just randomly replace the templates which users have created in their Zabbix. Can I use LDAP for user for my company and user from DB for customers? Yes, you can now use, from 6.2, you already can use multiple LDAP authentications, LDAP servers, basically. So you can do the same with 6.4. Thank you for the webinar regarding template versioning. Is it possible to keep templates in a Git repository already? Again, thank you. Zabbix templates are already kept in a Git repository, or do you mean more of an automated deployment for yourself?
Yeah, I think the question is more about automated deployment. Yeah, and actually, it's really easy to achieve. Basically, you may have just a commit hook on your templates, and as soon as you make any changes to your templates in a Git or GitHub, you'll just call Zabbix API, and the API call will just update, upload the latest template, the version of the template. That's how it normally works for CI/CD automation. Yeah, so you keep your templates in a Git, then you have a hook. The hook will basically call Zabbix API, and using the Zabbix API, you just upgrade your templates in Zabbix.
Okay, thank you for the step-by-step. Should I upgrade from 6.0 to 6.0, from 6.0 LTS to 6.4, or wait for 7.0 LTS? the main aspect here is well, first of all, of course, how big your Zabbix is, because any upgrade needs to be planned. And the second one in this case is the support specifically. So as you might know, LTS versions are supported basically for 5 years, while non-LTS major releases are basically supported up until the next release is there. So if you're okay to basically upgrade from 6.4 to 7.0 when it will be released, then sure, go for it. You will get a lot of new cool features. But if you prefer to, let's say, plan your upgrades gradually while knowing that everything is, supported, updated, fixed, then you should stay with LTS and then upgrade to the next LTS. Is there a bulk import feature planned for templates in the front ends, in the front end?
Well, I believe it's already supported. So I guess you may have multiple templates in your XML or YAML file, and just no problem. Import, export, it works with the multiple templates.
Then there's the only reason why you would need it if you have like each template in a separate file, but when you do an export from Zabbix of multiple templates, it kind of puts them into the one. So not sure what would be the use case. Is there a thought for a template converter tool in order to be able to use a community template created for 4.0? The workaround to deploy Zabbix for locally imported template. Templates are actually backwards compatible, so you can always take an old template and import it to the new Zabbix. There might be some issues in case something was completely different, but it's a rare case unless something is completely different. So it's supported already. The only way that it's not supported is when you take a template from 6.0 and try to import it into 4.0, because of course in the newer version there are newer features which were non-existent back then. Newer fields, newer configuration options, and so on. I think for some use cases in a very small environment, Zabbix server will be okay with SQLite database, but the support for it was dropped somewhere around version 2. Is it possible to get back SQLite support for Zabbix server?
Well, I don't think it is coming. Yeah, well, you still may run, for example, the MySQL on Raspberry Pi. Of course, it's more resource heavy, yeah, but it is possible. But I don't think SQLite will be supported for Zabbix server, only for Zabbix proxy.
Yeah, and there are definitely a lot of examples of your, you kind of default Zabbix setup with Zabbix MySQL front-end running perfectly fine on Raspberry. So
yeah.
Will there be some easy to grasp and get an overview of Zabbix Docker Compose, the all-in-one solution? Stopped continuing. Not sure about that all-in-one solution. But we definitely have videos and tutorials in terms of how to use Zabbix in Docker. Plus, we have a Docker page where everything is, in my opinion, quite detailed.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. The link for a simple streaming receiver example, which is mentioned in the documentation, isn't publicly visible. I will write this down and we will check. Is it or is it not, and what exactly is going on with this link? So sure, I will mark your question and then later on we'll check. I'm currently running a server and proxy pinging the same host, but I need to make two hosts for each host. Is there a better way of doing this instead of creating two, or it will? Not sure. You can actually, okay, I'm currently running a server and proxy pinging the same host. Okay, got it. So you basically use the proxy to ping the hosts. Well, depending, if you do just pings, and a Zabbix agent can do that a bit as a user parameter, an example, or let's say with a different approach, if you specifically check the ports, agent has built-in checks for that. But I cannot easily imagine a technical solution to like ping with Zabbix server, but from another host without having something on this other host. Okay, sometimes I don't use value mapping, but it's very rare. About the long question. I asked if a lot of not discovered anymore item could decrease performance and disrupt the database. I asked this because the new VM template creates a lot of this. If those are not supported items, potentially it can, but it's based on a lot of factors. It is based on your timeout. It is based on the errors, but you can always, check what exactly is there and do you really need them. If they are always not supported, it's better to filter out them in this case, or check your timeouts, see how long they are. But there's no like one specific recommendation, fortunately, that I could give. More details would be required to understand what would be the better approach to solve this properly. Do you have any plans to create? Okay, this was already there. Version upgrade. Is it possible to migrate from version 3 or version 4 directly to 6.4? And yes, it is possible. It is possible to upgrade even from version 2, basically. So yeah.
Yeah, just make sure, for example, that the version of the database is supported and the version of the kind of environment and, well, like PHP and all dependencies, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible to send different items for different Zabbix servers from one agent?
Yeah, it's possible.
The best approach, I guess, in my opinion, would be use to active checks for that, but yeah, why not? I waited for that question. Will proxy native HA be implemented similar to Zabbix server HA?
Well, actually, yeah, this functionality has been on our roadmap for a while, and it's still there for Zabbix 7.0. So fingers crossed.
So just patiently waiting, and we'll see.
Well, I think there are many users of Zabbix waiting for this functionality, actually. Yeah,
that's
me including.
Should I upgrade my SQL to timescale DB since I'm using Zabbix 5.4 and DB partitioning? If you already use DB partitioning, not mandatory, but in any case, in my opinion, the main argument, should you change something or not, should be dependent on what you know better, with what it will be for you better to work with. You will feel more confident and you will know how to fix, anything that can happen with anything, basically with DB engine specifically. But with an overall overview, timescale DB is definitely a really great extension of Postgres, and it's really nice to have built-in partitioning with data compression. But should you is more dependent on what will you be more comfortable with, especially since you already use partitioning. Is there any plan for console-based agents configuration so agents can pull the config from Zabbix server or proxy? Console-based agents. I'm not sure. Can you maybe add a bit more details to that?
Yeah, I'm also not sure. I'm just trying to figure out the use case. Like, yeah. Well, I can probably clearly see why you're asking this question, but I don't think it's in our roadmap at the moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, maybe I did then misunderstood the question. Sorry, I apologize for that. I'm running a server and the proxy. They are both pinging every host. Is there a way to ping a single host? from the proxy and server without making the hosts in Zabbix. No, not directly, definitely. So you will need to have to if you actually need to make pings from two absolutely different locations.
I'm just thinking maybe you may take advantage of a trapper item, something like this, but yeah, maybe it will be a little bit hackish. Yeah, not sure.
Will it be possible to monitor a host prototype from another proxy that then the parent host, for example, vCenter is monitored by a proxy, but the VM itself running Zabbix agent in another network, not reachable by the vCenter proxy. Overall, yes, you could do something like that, definitely. But yeah, it would be quite a convoluted setup, but you could do something like that. Why there are not so many Zabbix active agent templates as passive templates? For example, I'm missing templates for a PMI or SNMP provided metrics. That's a bit of a completely a bit different things. So well, the first thing with Zabbix agent active, it's actually pretty easily to convert any passive agent template to active by selecting items and doing a mass update most of the time. But IPMI or SNMP is a bit of a different thing. They are not related to Zabbix active agent, and active agent is not involved in them specifically in any case. Will the Zabbix official templates be updated to new graphs? Those showing data on mouse hover introduced in Zabbix 4.0. Oh, okay. I assume the dashboards on the template level with the new graphs.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will in Zabbix 7.0. Yeah.
Great. And I would love to see math functions for item graphs like integrate, differentiate, filter. Some is already there. Count, as far as I remember, also. Like in graphite prompt. Okay, so we can basically shorten this question to, are there any plans for some additional aggregation or mathematical functions for the dashboard graphs?
Yeah, absolutely. It's also coming. Yeah.
How much resources does the streaming feature of the data needs?
Well, very little, very little. Absolutely. Yeah. So it doesn't require an extra CPU, just maybe, I don't know, a few, well, 1% of the CPU time, and maybe, well, of course, it depends. You set 1K NVPS, but still not so much. I don't think you'll notice any significant difference in the performance of your Zabbix server if you have this feature enabled.
Yeah, with 1K NVPS, there shouldn't be really noticeable.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot, but for Zabbix, it's actually not a lot. So, yeah, that's actually, in my opinion, an interesting question. Any plans for central management of Windows Linux agent configuration files? So I assume native ones, not like true puppets, but something more native.
Well, we don't have a such plans because it's really something related to a security, yeah, and we don't want really Zabbix to convert into kind of a configuration management system, yeah. So that's why we really want to be, well, monitoring observability platform only, and don't really touch the configuration management, yeah, because it's something completely different.
And another thanks for the presentation. 8 years with Zabbix and I'm still loving it. Have a good evening. And you too, definitely. And thank you for the kind words.
Thank you.
And I guess that's it. I guess that's all the questions we had for today.
So have you answered all questions from the chat? I just don't remember. I think I am trying to find one, but I don't see any questions there. Maybe we already answered
one, but we answered it definitely.
Okay, good.
About the resources. Oh, is there a question? Okay, I'll answer, I guess, this one. What is the best approach on how to keep my local changes in the official Zabbix templates? Because I would like both to receive new versions of the templates and still keep my changes. Well, actually, an example in 6.0 and all the newer versions, when you import the templates now, Zabbix shows you very clearly and graphically like what exactly will be changed. So there's basically, you could say, like a diff between what is there now and what will happen when you import it. So you will definitely notice it when you will try to import something. Okay. In this case, we can definitely say, okay, last one, and I guess we will finish on that one. Is there, or let's say it like that, will there be a way to collect NetFlow data natively?
Well, it's definitely no longer-term roadmap, but at this moment you may take advantage of the solution of our partner, who is providing the NetFlow collectors, which works very nicely and integrated very nicely with Zabbix. Just have a look at zabbix.com, and I think you can find this information. And I think there are a number of talks about it already.
Yeah, definitely. And there were talks on the Zabbix Summit. That means you can find on the YouTube already a speech from the previous year Summit about that. So again, thank you, Alexei. Thank you, everyone who joined. This was an absolute pleasure. There was a lot of really great questions and really great answers from Alexei. And then again, we will see all of you next time on next webinars and on, again, maybe Zabbix Summit. If you're planning to attend, all of you, we will be waiting, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you all for your question. I personally really enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and see you then next time.
Yeah, see you next time.